On the 21st of May, 996 AD, Otto III Ludolfinger was crowned Holy Roman Emperor, or Emperor of the Romans for all you medieval law nerds. I wonder what Europe looked like at the time. Wait, so who is the King of France? Oh, okay, that makes sense. Who was the Pope? Oh, that makes sense. Wait, Otto III and Pope Sylvester II? Oh my god! By the way, I'm sorry this video took so long. I'm a bit of a lazy bones, but it's also rather long, so please forgive me. I don't feel very festive. I feel like I need to... Alright, I feel festive now. So there's a theory that Otto III, Sylvester II, and maybe Constantine VII all conspired to fabricate hundreds of years of history. This makes no fucking sense. Why would these three guys fabricate hundreds of years of history just so that they got to live in the year 1000? Point is, this is an idiotic theory, but I want to examine it further regardless.
Theory review.
The theory was first published in 1991 by Heribert Illig. So what's the proof? I made it No, I'm being serious. Illig genuinely asserts that the entire Carolingian period was faked, just so these 2 or 3 guys could live in a 1000. They apparently destroyed evidence, falsified evidence, and got up to all sorts of mischief just to live in a year. So what's actually his proof? 1, there are few objects or genuinely dated things that are from this missing time period. 2, dating methods such as radiometry are often inaccurate. 3, historians rely too much on written sources. And 4, there was Romanesque architecture in Europe at the time. Tree rings? Tree rings exist and don't just stop for 300 years. Halley's Comet is consistent with the fake timeline asserted by Illig. Ancient astronomy was actually relatively accurate. You have Mayan astronomy, Tang China, you have all those Greek guys, and they're all really good at doing math and staring at stars for a long time. The Mayan long count calendar and the European proleptic Gregorian calendar are the same. They are basically the same. Except the European calendars almost always use a relationship to when Jesus was born, rather than the Mayan calendars, which base it off of their mythical creation, which is around August 11th, 3113 BCE. The Islamic calendar bases its years off of the Hijri, or years since the Hijri, which is when Muhammad and his followers moved to Medina. Which, wait, isn't... Oh no. Yeah, so also, Muhammad was born in 570, roughly, and this means that if Illig's proposed timeline was true, he would have been alive. And yes, the Julian calendar fucking sucked. It was really bad. That's why the Gregorian calendar exists. Wait, who was Otto then? Was Otto just some guy? Just some fucking guy? No, he was the Holy Roman Emperor. Otto III was Otto the Great's grandson, who was himself a direct descendant of Charlemagne through Gisela. What about France? According to this theory, France went from being Merovingian to being France just overnight. Like, they just fabricated all that history. Also, to address the Romanesque architecture thing, the Germans and Greeks were still fighting over who was technically the Roman emperor at the time. So I don't find it unlikely that there was still Roman-inspired artwork in Europe and architecture. And yes, dating methods suck, but do they suck by that hard? I don't think so. What seems more reasonable? That all these people, all this history, all this stuff was fake because some guy figures it probably was. Or that history actually happened like we're pretty sure it happened. Illig, I don't think your theory is true. But there isn't very much historical evidence from that era, nor is there very much archaeological evidence from any specific era. Alright. Jesus, it is hot out here. Despite all of this, there is an underlying truth to this meth-smoking theorizing. We don't know very much about the past. I personally know a lot about my family history. I can date it back to Germany in 1758, but if you think about it, that's not that long ago. I mean, like, George Washington, and most people can hardly go back to the 1800s. If you can find something off of Ellis Island, that's lucky. My family history probably goes back millennia, and I'll never know. Because there's nothing to find. There's literally nothing to prove. Like, I could look everywhere, and I wouldn't be able to figure out who Ludwig's father was.
Part 2.1 Qusayr Amra.
In the desert of Jordan, there's a site called Qusayr Amra. I hope I'm saying that correct. Qusayr Amra, or Qusayr Amra, Qusayr Amra.
Oh shit, I was way off.
It was a beautiful desert castle in modern-day Jordan, in what was, at the time, the Umayyad state. It was apparently a large retreat for Walid II, which featured beautiful frescoes, a garrison, a Turkish bath. Well, it isn't much of anything now. The painting of the Six Kings. Act surprised. At the time, the Umayyads controlled everything, and they were by far the most important realm of the early Islamic world. This painting depicts 6 rulers. Even though 2 of them are emperors, it's still called the Six Kings. It is like a million degrees. Crikey, it's hot out here. They are the Byzantine Emperor, the Sasanian Emperor, King Roderick of Hispania, a Negus of Axum, and that's about it. Maybe one of them was a Chinese emperor, a Turkic Khan, a king in India. It's unclear. We can't really tell. Here's something kind of weird. Wikipedia says that it is now known to represent the Emperor of China, but I looked at the source right on the citation here, and there's no, like, evidence. It just says it is, and it's like a monument donation thing, not like an official website, so, I don't know. It's too late to, like, redo all my research, but if you know what's up with this, go do your thing on Wikipedia, or just otherwise antagonize me in the comments. That's always fun. So let's do a theory review. According to the victory theory, we'll call it, all of these are vanquished enemies of the Umayyad Caliphate, which actually does make a solid bit of sense. Although the other 2 aren't known, and there aren't really obvious answers of large centralized states that were defeated by the Umayyads in some way, I'll give it a 3 frieds out of 4. Next theory is copycat theory. This is the theory that it was based off of an original Persian painting. I don't know, this one's boring. I'm gonna give it a 0 frieds out of 4. 0. Hey, it's me, Post, editing the thing. There's another third theory that these are not just vanquished states, but they're actually what the Umayyads are succeeding. Like the Umayyads are heirs to these other states. But I forgot about that, and that's not my point, so part of me feels that it's kind of stupid to try and speculate on what it could have been, because we don't know. Maybe one of them's Charles Martel, maybe one of them's an alien, but we don't know. It is impossible to know. All that we can do is examine what the ravages of erosion have done. And the first guy who discovered this that, like, carved a bunch of it off, and they had to find, like, somebody to draw a different version of it. Yeah, screw you, man. Once you go before 1500 or 500 for that matter, or 500 BCE, you're lucky if you even have dung or some scraps of a piece of paper left to speculate on. Not even a concrete fact. There's so many historical objects and things of significance that, like... Part 2.2... Wait, what am I going to call it? Antiquity. Antiquity, that's a good... Alexander the Great. We know the basic facts of his life, what year he was born, what year he died, what general areas his empire covered, but we can't know everything. For most stories in Antiquity, all we have is a copy of a story that some guy wrote about another guy who heard it from another guy who heard it from the actual source. All of these sources are very dubious. But now, it kind of doesn't matter. Alexander's been dead for 2,500 years, and I bet you can't even name one of his successors. I dare you. Put it in the screen right now. Scream it at me. Things literally decay. Houses from the 1800s are usually nowadays like pieces of garbage. Even now, bustling streets and malls and factories are left decrepit from urban decay. There are subgenres of urban decay, like one for dead malls. Ugh, hate these. And maybe this is how everything ends up, so disorderly, so lost, because we spend all our time working on what is profitable and not the best for human life. So our old buildings just sit there, decaying, only still standing because it isn't profitable to tear them down, and it hasn't been long enough for them to be lost. Let alone millennia-old texts. Artifacts and monuments that are rumored to exist have never been found. Many cities are built on the decaying remains of previous cities, like Troy, which is built on I don't know, I'll look it up later, 12 other Troy. The 7 wonders of the world. The Colossus of Rhodes. You know that thing? It only stood for about 50 years and was destroyed in an earthquake, sitting decayed just there. And then it was probably melted down into coins and tools. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Location has never been discovered. It's dubious whether or not it ever existed. Most accounts are like a guy who heard it from a guy who then told a Greek guy to write it down. So there are not very many Babylonian primary sources on its actual location. The Temple of Artemis. The Temple of Artemis now looks like this. Hey, this one exists. Probably because Christianity, they weren't really in with all that Zeus and Artemis stuff, which is why the statue of Zeus at Olympia probably fell into disuse after, Christians took over, and then was I didn't write it down, but I was reading something when writing this about they're gonna remake it and then just fall apart or something. I don't know, I'll put it over here. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus. It's actually pretty well documented what happened to it, but it fell in an earthquake and then was used to build Bodrum Castle. The lighthouse of Alexandria. Got earthquaked and fell down, and guess what they turned it into? You're right, a castle. The Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramids? Great Pyramid? I don't know, I'm only going to talk about the one. Exists and has always existed. If you're in recorded history, it has. Herodotus actually wrote about it 2,000 years after it was made, and wildly was wrong about the date it was made, because Herodotus sucked. Well, he didn't suck as much as he had a bad habit of getting hoodwinked by his native guides. So they just tell him, oh yeah, that thing, it's been here for 800 years or something, I don't know. So he'd write that down as fact. Tricked. Lol. Lol. Tricked. Lol.
You fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
Something I found particularly funny was that when John Greaves tried to date it, he couldn't figure out that the newer, actually very close to accurate Roman document stating when it was built was actually using another different name from the Greek name of Khufu. So it was actually Sufis. And he couldn't figure that out. So he defaulted to Herodotus's hoodwink source. Or the 300-foot pyramids that are actually 40-foot statues. There are very long Reddit threads about this. I'll scroll through it or something over here. Do you like how I do that little whenever? He also describes the pyramid of Amenemhet the Third, and it's 3,000 room labyrinth, which I mean, it sounds to me like Amenemhet kind of sucked at making a good pyramid, because it looks like this. Now, even the biggest pyramid of all time, all those thousands of years of pyramids being built, there was one that's very, very old and still standing, and that's, the Great Pyramid. But still the The last remaining wonder of the world has lost almost all, or literally all, of its shell. It's kind of a ruin compared to what it used to be. So many historical things have just gone missing. Richard III was under a parking lot. The Romanov eggs, the heirloom seal. There's noise. The scepter of Dagobert. That's fun. Nelson's Chelenk. The amber room. The menorah from the second temple. Like, they all just disappeared, like the aforementioned gardens. And extremely dubious things, like the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. Did any of these things ever exist? Maybe. Wait, no, put the Elijah Wood clip of him going, maybe.
When will you wear wigs?
That's an editor's note. Don't put this in the... I mean, is it surprising that things go missing? That historical objects are never found? That things just decay? Because the present goes by too fast to document everything, to make sure that everything is seen. What's just some ordinary object today could be a very useful archaeological find in 1,000 years, like a literal turd. I really do think it's terrifying that most of these ancient objects or places are just gone. Dust.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, near them on the sand. Half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
Ozymandias is an 1817 poem written by Percy Shelley, and it is great. I think it fundamentally understands entropy. That's the whole point. It's even told from the framing of a guy telling another guy who heard it from a guy, and it tells the story of a desolate, decrepit, destroyed, ruin statue of Ramses II, or to Greek dudes, Ozymandias, and is probably the most famous Egyptian pharaoh other than this one and Caesar's GF. And this man, the King of Kings, is dead, and he's been dead for, hold on, I didn't write it down. I just have thousands, plural. He's been dead for multiple thousands of years. He was probably once a terrifying man, someone who the mighty would be scared of. And now, his great monument to inspire fear and terror in the hearts of mighty men is just a little thing poking out of the desert. The poem fits into the larger context of European Orientalism of the era. But I think personally, more than that, or any of the other European stuff happening at the time, it's more about decay. Through time, this tyrant, this incredibly powerful man, is just nothing. I don't think he's meant to be tyrannical to mock any of Shelley's contemporaries. Even the most strong, the King of Kings, even he, his legacy far surpassed by death, can have his legacy destroyed by time. This probably meant something. This was a living thing. And to think about all the hundreds or even thousands of these things that have just died without a trace, not even leaving this left, I think is pretty sad. I mean, think about how old this thing is. Like, George Washington, we only see a fraction of the past through archaeology. It's never the Ark of the Covenant. It's some guy in his toothbrush in a accidental fossilization, or some stick or something, or poop, like actual literal poop. We're always left speculating or trying to piece something meaningful together out of what has survived entropy. The millions of things that have existed that have no basis, that just are gone and will never be found. I think is terrifying. There is a famous quote from J. Robert Oppenheimer. I'm going to play it right now.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Where he paraphrases Krishna. But a more accurate translation of the original Sanskrit is something more like, I am become time, destroyer of worlds. Death can destroy life. But time can destroy galaxies. I gotta take a Dr. Pepper break. Well, this inevitable decay stuff, it all seems so ancient, so impersonal. I mean, what could be an example of entropy experienced in our personal lives? What did the title card say 20 seconds ago? So I wrote this script on like the 2nd of July when I was traveling to South Dakota. So when I make references to me being in the car and stuff, that's when I wrote it, like more than a month ago. Not when I'm actually recording it. I'm recording it at my my home, my abode. I used to travel to South Dakota a lot as a kid. It was always a lot of fun. We would always spend a couple days on Missouri, near Pierre, and then go west. I love western South Dakota. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It has an incredibly rich history, an incredibly rich and incredibly bloody history, especially the Black Hills. The Black Hills are incredibly beautiful. We're not going to talk about how they were stolen. There's a lot of beautiful places there. Not that one. The Badlands, that's not in the Black Hills. But this trip that happened like a month ago, I'm not going to western South Dakota. What tense am I going to use? I'm not going to western South Dakota. I'm going to central South Dakota, and just for a couple days, and then we're coming back. Just picking up some old relics. Moving all this stuff out of the house is very nice, because a lot of it was my grandmother's stuff. We used to go to Pierre, like I said, and then go out west for a couple days, and it's about the same. It's still incredibly beautiful, even like the boring road trips. This is I'm going to put up a shot right now of this during a road trip. I've also been very bored on this trip, but that's not what we remember.
Part 3.1, Cost-Benefit Analysis.
So what's the value of nostalgia? Well, it's a feeling. I don't know about everybody else, but for me, nostalgia is very strong. Like, it hits me. And those synapses firing again, there's something very sad and melancholic about it. You know, I can never go back with my dad at the pool in 2013. I can never go to South Dakota in 2015 again. I can never go to my grandma's house for Christmas anymore. And that's the point. It's just a memory. Just a burning memory. No, wait, too early. I went to my grandmother's house at least once, probably twice, every year when I was growing up. It was painted beautifully, and I loved it. It was filled to the ceiling with all sorts of items, and every one of them meant something. Looking around me in the room I'm in right now, in my house, there are at least 4 large pieces of furniture that are from that house. It took almost a year to clean out when she died, and that was mostly because it was a 9-hour drive. I loved Christmas there. It was so warm. Just waking up in the morning, like with the radiators, and then I'd go downstairs and go and look at the beautifully upholstered couch and see my presents on it from Santa. Something about that house, a little part of me actually believed that Santa might exist, just because, like, if he ever actually went down the chimney in a house, that was the house that he did it in. I was a bit of a gullible child. I have all sorts of warm memories of that house, of spending time with family, spending time with my grandmother, every inch of the house. But my grandmother is dead now. It's not too sore of a subject, it's been a couple years, but it's still pretty sad. I could feel very, very sad in a sort of nostalgic way about not being able to go there anymore, not having my grandma alive anymore. And that's tough, but I don't feel that way. And that's because I'm a smart cookie. And that's because I know those memories aren't physical now. It seems kind of sad that I can't go back and experience something's permanently gone physically. And that's okay, because it is just a burning memory. And I want to stoke that fire. Who wrote this? What, did I actually write that? we remember the good parts of something. Part of me wants to go back to my grandma's house in like 2013. Feel the radiators, the dim lights, the warmth of family being there. But part of me thinks it might not be that good. It might be more mundane. Because that was a damn cool house. But I was also pretty damn bored in it probably a bunch of the time. That's a bad part, cut that out. So I have a lot of good memories from South Dakota when I was younger. I also have a lot of probably erased, really boring memories of sitting in the car for hours doing nothing. And I've never had a bad memory of Christmas. Actually, I do have one. In 2012 when rotavirus. But I know that that's probably not actually true. Not all of the things that happened during Christmas were good. A lot of times there were family tensions, drama, and later politics that underpinned all of it and made it very uncomfortable for the adults, but not for my little tiny brain. And my point is not that romanticizing the past is necessarily bad, because we all do it. But if I were to go back to my grandmother's house, would it be as good as I remembered? Probably not. I think if I was given the choice to go back in time and do that, I don't think I would. I think it is a burning memory. I think that's important that it stays that way. Because sometimes the memory, or oftentimes the memory, is better than the actual truth of the situation.
Part 3.2. The conclusion. Except it's like the longest section in this video.
As humans, it seems like kind of a curse, all of this. We're too smart to exist, too smart for nature. We can't forget, and we can't entirely remember. The indomitable human spirit. We started out as apes, and now I'm sitting here in air conditioning, looking like some bad outfit in Red Dead Redemption. And I think that as humans, we're too smart for our own goods. We can't deal with all this shit. We're not meant to be doing this. And there's definitely one thing that only humans have been documented doing. There are a lot of curious animals, there are inquisitive animals that are like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's that? We've been able to communicate with a lot of animals. Not that one. That was animal abuse. What animals have never been able to successfully transmit or successfully show is asking questions.
I was wrong when I said that. Animals have never asked existential questions, but they have asked questions like what or how, just not existential questions like why, for example.
And I think that probably has something to do with why humans are so smart and have gotten so far. Our concept of nostalgia has changed over time. It was long thought to be a debilitating mental illness, caused by these recurring thoughts of the past.
Oh yes, sir, let me give you a lobotomy for that.
Pain and homecoming don't exactly describe generally warm, nice, but also melancholic feelings of the past. Why would we want to look back? Why would we need to know what happened before us? Why can't we just make sure that it'll be good in the future? Why does anybody care what's happened before? I don't know, but I think the feeling of existential importance and warmth that nostalgia can provide is biologically important. I think nostalgia satisfies our need for more. Humans have a lust for knowledge completely foreign to the entire rest of the world. Maybe there's something about us that needs to know about our personal pasts or societal pasts. Am I basing this off of anything? No. I don't know. I remember a lot of stuff. It's almost a curse in some of my family. Nostalgia for me it's tough. It's piercing. I used to be bothered a lot by it because it was so strong. I used to cry about my grandma's house being gone, about her being gone. I used to cry about good memories and bad memories alike. One day recording this time in my life will be nostalgic. And going to South Dakota, I thought, was a very interesting way to introduce this topic. It's an example to really see how do my memories stack up to actually what it was like. And the answer is pretty decently well. I remembered it pretty well, but there was a lot of boredom that I didn't remember. This brings up a more fundamental question. All this decay, all this entropy, what does it all mean? 10,000 years, that's most of human history. And that is just nothing to the cosmos. I think that's the fundamental human quandary. That's the issue, is that we don't mean anything physically. But I think that to us, that's kind of beautiful. That in this nothingness, this world that's forced to decay, where everything will eventually be nothing, I think it's beautiful that we can find any meaning at all in that, and that we can even look at the past and think anything of it. Some people, when presented with this, say none of it matters, it's meaningless, that life has no meaning. But I think that's giving up, hearing the fundamental human question and saying, no, I don't want to try and answer it. Finding any sort of meaning at all in all this shit happening around us, that's pretty cool. What sets us apart is our thirst for knowledge, our need to know more, to be more, to mean more. And when boiled down to it, a short life in a cruel universe sucks. And when anybody can find any good meaning out of that, I think that's incredibly profound. So enjoy it. Enjoy life. Go touch grass. I've been talking for way too long now. I'm going to show a clip. I recorded this next clip in South Dakota, and this is some final words I had on nostalgia. I haven't been here since 2015. It's been years. It feels nostalgic to be here. It's nice to see how the memories stack up to how I thought they were. Now, I don't want to tell you not to go back somewhere like this. That's not my point. But sometimes a burning memory is the best you're going to get. I can never go back to my grandma's house. I can never get my grandparents back. And that has to be okay. You know, it's something about just those synapses firing again. It's, as much as it might be inconvenient, as it might suck, it's how we are. We cannot separate that. This video is more for me than it is for you, but this kind of idea, this notion is how I got over extreme nostalgia. And, you know, I forgot what my next sentence was. It can be great to revisit the past, to revisit a place like this. But don't dwell on it. Although, you should absolutely never forget it. Alright, let's go home. Okay. Now hold on, me from last month. I'm not done yet.
Part 4. Conclusion. Oh, wait. No, I already used conclusion. Wait, no.
Human life is a constant struggle against inevitable destruction. We're always tricking death or tricking the physical world. It's a war between the inordinate human sentimentality and the fact that all those memories will someday be gone. I used to be incredibly nostalgic and sentimental, and oftentimes very pessimistic. I don't know if it was medication or self-identity or just growing up, but I don't think like that anymore. Earth will eventually be engulfed in fire and the universe will go cold. But I think that makes this little blip of something that we have here on Earth really beautiful. Maybe none of it means anything. Maybe none of it'll ever last. Us, this little blip in the universe that doesn't mean jack shit. That we can have this much meaning, this much emotion, this much feeling. That there can be so much goddamn life on this little rock. Through your help, care, compassion, or glory, a single human can have far more effect on the world than they ever ought to. It is beautiful that something so small can have so much meaning. And while time does kill everything, time forgets. So what's the meaning of life? I don't know. I hope I came close, though. My main point ended up being a lot bigger than just nostalgia and decay, so I hope I got close. A little project to get me motivated to finish the femur breaker video ended up eating up 2 months of my life. So, as a sequel hook, I think I'll do a nihilism video sometime soon, as well as one which I cannot tell you about at this moment. And I want to specially thank Francie, Kent, Patrick, Susan, John, as well as Justin. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day. If you like the video, drop a view, or a comment, or a like in the subscriptions tab. Wait, no.
Like and subscribe.